inspired. I'm inspired.
Hey there guys, how's it going? My name is Sumit Chatterjee from the Flow Zone Academy, and I'm a flow state coach, which means that I help you feel better and perform better. Today I'm talking about how do we actually crack the simulation theory, right? How are we able to utilize and actually use it towards our abilities? So the thing is, we talk about this idea of this world being a simulation, but we don't really know how to crack the code yet. And scientists have been figuring out how to do this for millennia, right? They're figuring out what exactly consciousness even is. Like, what is this thing? Like, when we think about it, we don't really know the answer. We know that we're using our senses in some way. We know that we're trying to figure out some kind of algorithm and pattern to the way that the universe works, but we don't actually have something in place that will teach us, like, okay, this is what we need to do. Speaking of teaching, this is a game of learning, right? This is a process of you gaining lessons and lessons and lessons, repeating itself deeper and more profound as you go through this maze. Instead of thinking of the law of attraction as some kind of get-rich-quick scheme in which you just close your eyes and you envision a Lambo, I want you not to think of it in this instant gratification way, but in this prolonged or delayed gratification way, okay? So the law of attraction is not the secret at all. It is in fact happening to us all the time. I mean, what are some ideas that are already out there suggesting that we are living in a simulation? One is Mandela theory, right? Mandela theory is a very common theory that some people saw Nelson Mandela die in the 1980s rather than the 2000s, right? So some people reported that they saw that in a newscast or a news program, and some people say that they didn't. Similarly to like Kazam and Shazam, people getting confused with those two names, and some people believe that the comedian Sinbad had a movie called Shazam, which some people remember, okay? Another one is like the spelling of Bernstein Bears, I believe, one of them. That's called the Mandela Effect, right? There's also obviously the placebo effect, the fact that a sugar pill can work even better than an actual medication because of our intent or our belief behind the fact that this is going to work for us. So it's a self-fulfilling prophecy. It creates a certain aspect of a certain result that we want, okay? Now this is also another intentional aspect of the fact that our minds can be programmed like a computer. We understand that computers are there to be progressively more and more better, right? Technology is getting better and better every year. So I think the fact that technology is getting better and better every year, and we're expanding as a civilization, as humanity, we're coming to the understanding to see the strings, we're seeing behind the puppet strings, in a sense, right? We're seeing the glitches in the matrix, like, how can a reality TV star become president? Well, that's a glitch in the matrix, right? You know, the Pentagon just saw videos of aliens and they just completely kind of saw it again. I believe that ghosts and aliens are, again, glitches in the matrix. So we are actually going in the simulation itself. And understand that we are right now at an age of information, okay? Attention and information age. And the information we're getting is binary code, okay? Zeros and ones. Okay, now the I Ching actually has a very interesting dynamic of ones and zeros, and it even being related to the patterns of DNA. Okay, so the process of growth is actually a spiral similar to the way that the DNA spirals and coils upwards. Now, as I believe, the DNA sequence was actually something that the creator dreamt of. Right? So it was from another realm that he got this understanding of this thing, and also understanding how mathematics, there is an equation, ones and zeros. One is yang, right, which looks like penis, and zero is vagina, which looks like is yin, right? So zero looks like a vagina, an opening, right, which is yin. This is very reductionist kind of you know, overly simplistic way of looking at it, but this is the law of gender, night and day, you know, sun and moon, just working towards this understanding of contrast, of this juxtaposition, this creative contrast that's creating this world. Otherwise, we would just have nothingness, it's empty space, right? But the fact is that the creative contrast gets us to be excited and actually move forward and see the differences and create something we call an experience. The interesting thing is, experience and the root etymology of the word experiment is the same. It means the word try. Okay? Very interesting. The thing is, the more we ask questions about the simulation, the more we get into the paradox of this, is because we find new information that clarifies that it is finally a simulation, but that information can be simulated information as well. And that's where we fall into this trap of like trying to figure it out, right? So let's think of this thing, if it operates like a game has an objective. So how can you play a game if you don't even know that you're in one? You're the fish inside of the fishbowl, not knowing you're inside of the fishbowl. You're Harry Potter, not knowing that you're a creation of J.K. Rowling, right? So I think the first initial change that happens from within is knowing that you are changing the source code, and going and connecting with God or the universe or this higher power or this simulated programmer, whoever that is, right? You don't know what this is, but again, it's like knowing the fact that you are in this simulation will get you to wake up within the matrix, wake up within the simulation. So this is my own opinion and own understanding, but how do we know that if we're winning the game or not of life? I think it's in our emotions. Okay? I think it's in our emotional coding. So if we're feeling emotionally overwhelmed and we're in emotional turmoil and there's so much drama, we're losing the game. If we're feeling happy, fulfilled, and successful, and we feel good emotions and positive emotions, we're winning the game. So if our emotions are in a turmoil, we've got some work to do, right, to figure out and rewire our minds, which is what I do. I help people rewire their minds to be able to actually access a greater part of themselves, right, and actually change their personality and change their personal reality. So what's the role of consciousness in establishing fundamental reality, right? Princeton actually did a study on this. Princeton concluded that our intent heavily influences our physical reality, right? So our thoughts can actually be devastating to actual physical systems. So you can actually break something down. Just like there's the placebo effect, there's also the nocebo effect. You know, that our negative thinking can actually get that thing to happen as well. We have to take those small decisions to own our day. That is how we're going to take power over the simulation again, is through the power of choice. Now, Viktor Frankl had this amazing quote, okay? He said, between stimulus and response is a space. He said that between stimulus and response is a space. And in that space, there is this gap, and that space is the power to choose. The power of choice is the response. So in our response, he said, lies, so he also said, in our response lies our growth and our freedom, our liberation, right? Our freedom and our growth, our expansiveness as a civilization, as an individual. And he also said the last of the human freedom is to choose one's attitude in any given set of circumstances, okay? So attitude and responding to the way that you interpret this world and this universe is going to give you growth and freedom in life, okay? Viktor Frankl, I know what you're saying here, brother. This is very deep, and it actually goes into simulation theory, and you didn't even know it. And you didn't even know it. Fear is a virus in the system, right? Right now, everybody's panicked in the world, okay? Now, I don't want to make too many juxtapositions here in terms of what's happening on a worldwide scale in terms of the pandemic and how it's fear-mongering, right? It's putting fear into people's minds, and they're going more inwards and not overcoming their fear of what's going to happen with humanity and the world and themselves and all this kind of stuff. This is a game of mind over matter. We have to get you from a fear-based society to a flow-based society, but that journey starts within. That journey starts from you facing your shadows, facing your fears, getting you to embrace what is ultimately inside of you, to be able to construct and revitalize the lifestyle that you truly want by design, not by default. You can go into default in the simulation, which is just doing what other people are telling you. Or you can follow the Tao, you can follow the coding of this video game of life. You can follow the God way, the Tao way, the Buddhist way. These are all paths that lead to the same destination in this matrix, okay? Each religion has also formulated a way, a pathway to get to this source code in their own individual way. That's how they're interpreting this video game. So James Gates said that the attempt to understand the fundamental operations of nature led him to a series of equations that are similar to equations that drive search engines and browsers of the computer. And you find computer code, so strings of ones and zeros that underlies our physical universe. This is what he found, okay? And the equations, if you look at these equations, they look kind of like UFOs. They're kind of cool. And Dr. Lloyd said also that we live in this quantum computer, okay? So if you're familiar with personal development, we've been using words like quantum and rewiring and program since forever, right? Since neuro-linguistic programming, since all of these things, these concepts came about, right? So we've been doing this kind of stuff for a while. However, for people who are just experiencing this is an education of consciousness. So you're training to use the creative energy of the universe, which is God, if you prefer, but it is energy. So all you're doing is you're learning on this pathway. And the last thing that I want to leave you with is to understand that Earth stands for Educational Artificial Reality Training Habitat. Earth is an educational artificial reality training habitat. So it's there to train you to learn things. It's a classroom, it's a virtual classroom where you get to learn. If life was a classroom teaching you lessons, what have you been learning? That's a question that my business coach, Joe, always used to ask me. I recently found out that we're constantly learning, right? We go through different lessons again and again. This is the process of this thing, right? How important is it to create your own simulation, your own coding, your own reality by choice, that power of response, that power of attitude and choice. And the way you know you're winning this game is to notice your emotions. Are you feeling good or are you feeling bad? That is one way that you can measure your progress as this thing improves, okay? So have an amazing day. May the flow be with you and stay legendary. See you next time. Bye.